I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, we talk a bit about the NIMBYs and the bananas.
Let's do this. So, Rim, how cool is your work?
I don't want to answer that question, really, because it makes me kind of sad.
Because your work's not cool?
Well, here's the thing. I used to complain a lot about working at IBM, but to IBM's credit, that was my first job where I wasn't in college and didn't care and showed up late and left early every day. Like, it was an actual job. And I realize now that I didn't really hate IBM. I just hated working 9 to 5. And I don't want to say my current job sucks, but I spent 4 hours today sitting watching Service Pack 4 for Windows 2000 install on a computer with 64 megabytes of RAM.
Awesome.
My job is not cool.
So I think it was...
Except when I get to go into the ER, which is not so much cool as frightening.
So a couple days ago, my company is run by these 4 people who are all equal partners, right? A couple days ago, one of the partners rolls into work on some...
Literally, like Katamari?
Like on some rollerblades into his office. And then he just doesn't take them off. And every time he leaves his office, he goes whoosh, whoosh.
You realize that when I worked at IBM...
And the floor in my office is like this flat, sort of bare concrete floor. So he was just whooshing all over the office.
The campus where I worked was kind of big. I mean, if I had to walk to like certain other buildings or within buildings to other like parts of buildings, it could take a half hour or more sometimes just because they were that big. Every day for the 3 years that I worked there, I thought, man, if only I could wear my rollerblades in here without being fired.
All right, you want to hear something else that's a little bit better than that?
All right, I'll hear it.
So there's some big at my company, it's like wear whatever you want, we don't care. Pajamas, who gives a shit, right?
I have to wear dress shirts every day.
But they told us there was a big meeting, like some business people are coming, right? You know, we gotta dress nice today, right? And basically what they told us was wear long pants and don't wear flip-flops. Some people came in wearing, nice shirt and shoes and pants and whatever, but I wore jeans and this, I guess it's a short sleeve shirt with a collar. And, of course, the business people didn't show up. They'll probably show up on Monday, but the point is that they say dress nice, wear long pants, and not flip-flops.
My job's not cool. I gotta say.
Your job's not cool.
So, I mean, the only thing
I finished pretty much all of my work today.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm out of work, which is awesome because I love it when all the work is done.
I've taken upon myself a lot of extra work. I keep writing these proposals, like, the company will work better if you guys did blah, and just keep sending them up the chain, and nothing ever comes back down.
They'll probably just have them in a pile in the shredder bin.
No, they're probably like, yeah, that punk's writing his thing again. What's it this time? He's saying something about having a DNS something to control printers instead of just doing it randomly like we do now. What does he know?
It sounds like a good idea to me.
Good God. Or I think my favorite one is, guys, might be useful to have some sort of documentation server, somewhere to store, I don't know, documentation, because there currently isn't any. Yeah, there is. Where? And I think the words that my boss's boss gave me in return were, yeah, they've been working on that for a while. Don't hold your breath.
Uh-huh. Well, my work's cool. Your work's not cool.
Does your work need an IT guy? I'm a highly trained professional.
Well, you might need a technical writer soon.
I'm a technical writer. I took classes on it. That's on my resume. I would take.
We have an IT guy. The thing is, like, he's like the admin for everything, and he's sort of like a big Windows guy, and you're probably smarter than he is. I don't think they're looking to replace him, and I don't think he needs any help either, because he spends most of his day playing MMOs.
I will tell you, sadly, that I have more experience still with Windows adminning than Linux adminning.
Yeah, even so, this guy is like a super Windows guy. Like, he knows stuff that I know you don't know.
Yeah, luckily all that stuff.
Like if there's an exchange, something going on, he's like, bam, there it is.
That stuff's not that hard, really, to be perfectly honest.
But he already knows it, whereas you would have to look it up.
Yeah, but I have to look up everything once.
Yeah, this guy's already looked it up.
Oh, well. I could be a tech writer. I'd take a pay cut just to be able to wear rollerblades.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens.
I mean, I wrote that article for Imagine FX.
The thing is, if they do get a tech writer, it'll probably be like we'll keep you until you write all the documentation we need, and then we don't need you anymore.
God, I could do something like that on the side.
Maybe.
Anyway, so it's Thursday, which means we're tired from doing shows all week. We don't really have anything to talk about. There's no direction. We can pick anything in the world. And it's funny how when I have to pick a tech news or something about, I don't know, anime, it always is easier because while there's fewer news, I just have some direction. But now I could pick any of the 1,000 stories on Fark, and I have something funny to say about all of them.
All right, well, which one did you pick?
Well, the one I picked is one that's very near and dear to me, for apparently somewhere in this country, in Waterbury, Connecticut, in fact.
Waterbury.
Waterbury.
It's Waterbury.
I know.
We drove through there on the way to Connecticut.
Yeah,
It's
we
that
did.
sort of half city. You drive through it on the highway, it looks like a city, but it's not quite a city. It's like a busy town with actual tall buildings in it. in a
I'll
few
be honest,
places.
Connecticut is a blur to me, and other than your parents' house and Danbury, I really have no concept of where anything is in Connecticut at all.
I know where things are in Connecticut.
But anyway, so at this school, they've decided to get tough on absenteeism, people skipping, truancy. And it looks like about 2,000 students who otherwise, from what I can assume, the article is not as descriptive as I would like it to be, who otherwise would have passed, will now fail after repeat a grade solely because they missed 19 or more days of school without valid excuses. Now, I have mixed feelings about this because on the one hand, attending school in a perfect world is important because you learn things at school.
Yep.
But at the same time, I went to public school and I know well exactly why those students were skipping, and I probably applaud them and would have been skipping with them.
Yep.
Two, at least in high school, I'm definitely of the mind that if you can pass all the tests and do all the projects and get good grades, attendance shouldn't matter at all. And I say that mostly because I was fairly notorious in high school for skipping all the goddamn time.
Yeah.
I'd show up like 2 hours late. I just leave for an hour lunch. We'd go to Cedar Point instead of going to school. I never told my parents, never told anyone. Sometimes I'd get up like I was going to go to school, and I get up on time, and I just wouldn't go to school.
Where'd you go?
Anywhere. We'd go to the park. I'd grab some people and hang out. We'd go to first period so they wouldn't be wise to us, and then we'd leave. The best thing was, now here's the thing. Technically, if you had 3 or more unexcused absences in my school, you failed the class automatically. And there was one interesting moment near the end of the year where a good friend of mine, trumpet player, I won't say his name because I haven't seen him in a while, and I don't know where he is right now. And anyway, we both pretty much skipped the same amount of class. We both tended to skip together, even if we didn't do things together. We both used each other as excuses. Like, I'd go up in the middle of, I don't know, third period and say, hey, blah, 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 there's a band thing. I gotta go work on to make something up in the band room for the musical next week, blah, blah, blah. Okay, sure, whatever, and I'd leave. And then he'd use that later, like, oh, crap, I gotta help with that too, and, that sort of thing. So we're near the assistant principal's office, and he calls us both in. I'm there for unrelated business, and he's there, he's not sure what he's for. And they call me in, and they say something like, all right, Brandon, we have on record that you have one unexcused absence from English class, and we would like to know what was going on. And I said, doctor's appointment. Now, note that I didn't even know what day they were referring to. They didn't say what day or anything. And the assistant principal says, oh, okay, I assumed it was something like that. You can leave. And as I'm walking out, turns to Brian, who has skipped the same number of classes as me, and they say, Brian, you're going to fail most of your classes. You've been missing class without any sort of excuse. And he turns and looks at me as I'm walking out the door like, what the fuck, Rim? What the fuck? That's all there was to that anecdote. But it seems like in most schools, the teachers tend to, at least good schools, cover for the kids who are smart and just let them skip when they want to or when they need to. And no harm comes of it. I did okay.
I think just what it comes down to is the current school system, of course, sucks. But if you're going to have it and you're going to, go with all the assumptions that it makes, that, better grades equals smarter person, A's are better than B's, if you get all C's, you pass, et cetera, et cetera. If you're going to go with all those assumptions and you're going to take them as true, then you can't really also say that attendance matters if someone gets good grades.
I mean, if the test matters.
Because if someone doesn't come and get straight A's, not likely, not very rare, but if it happens, then you can't have both those rules. It makes no sense.
Yeah, because if you're saying that someone can fail by something arbitrary like that in high school, then what you're basically saying is, yeah, the tests don't matter, just show up. Which is kind of true, because all through high school, in most high schools in the U.S., if you just show up, even if you put forth pretty much zero effort,
That's what I did.
you're gonna pass.
Yep.
It's so hard to fail high school. Like, it's really hard to actually fail out of high school in the U.S.
I never studied in all my years of school, high school and college. I have a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science from RIT, which is not easy. I never once, quote, studied for a test. When people said I have to study for a test, I didn't know how to do that.
We made fun of Pete pretty badly because Pete would always, now this is the worst thing, he'd always come back.
What does studying mean? Do you just, read the textbook again or something?
No, see, Pete taught us exactly what studying means, because it'd be about 11 o'clock on Sunday night, and we'd be playing games, and Pete would say, all right, guys, I gotta go home. I got an 8 a.m. class, and I gotta study for something. And he'd leave, and then the next day, he would tell us that, yeah, I woke up around noon, I missed both those classes, and I didn't study. So I think that's what studying is.
Okay.
I think studying is an excuse to go
Then what
somewhere.
were all those people doing in the library?
See, that was the scary thing, because I saw a lot of people at RIT, especially, in the first week of classes when nothing happens, and they'd already, they'd have this pile of books, and they'd just be in the library for hours and hours,
Maybe
reading
they
and
were
studying.
just trying to learn more than, just on their own.
What, learning at Institute of Higher Learning?
I can't imagine what else they were doing. But, yeah, I never studied. I never took notes in a class. All I did was go to class.
I took
take
notes.
the tests.
But the notes I took were very specifically, I'd sit there half asleep, and I'd listen. And every now and then, pretty much, most of my class experience were, womp, womp, womp. You know the Charlie Brown voices?
Yep.
Womp, 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 womp. The exam is on Tuesday. Womp, womp, womp,
Yep,
womp.
that's exactly what I'm talking
It will cover chapters 1 through 9. Womp, 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 womp.
Yeah. I did all the assignments that were graded. If it was a non-graded assignment, I usually didn't do it.
Usually, every now and then I'd do something if I really, there was an Active Directory optional lab once that I did because I wanted to learn about Active Directory, and by the end of it, I didn't want to learn about Active Directory
But
anymore.
I would never do an assignment if it couldn't affect my grade in any way. And I went to class pretty often, actually, especially in college, I guess there was one class that I sort of skipped almost every single class of it.
Well, what's the record? Because the record for me,
I think for, let's see, for software engineering lecture, of which I think you only get 7 of them, I went to 3, and the third one was the exam.
All right, I win that one. Visual Basic for programmers, the advanced one, the end run of Visual Basic for IT majors, back before they switched over to Java. I showed up on the first day, and I accidentally showed up on the second to last day because I forgot what day it was. I was gonna show up on the last day to take the exam, but I accidentally showed up on the second to last day. And it just so happened that the exam was a 2-part exam that took both days. And there were only 9 other people there with me taking that part of the exam.
How many people showed up for the second half?
60. and I remember sitting there thinking, oh, shit. But for the grace of God go we. And I just remember he passed out the exam. And I think he did this on purpose because he realized that no one came to a stupid class. And it wasn't his fault. It was just the class was stupid. And unless you were an idiot, the class was the most basic dumb programming after a much more rigorous programming class. They should have reversed the order. I don't get it. But it said very specifically, final exam, part 2. And it started with question 51. And the whole, the first 10 minutes were people muttering to themselves what's going on? I don't get it. And then he very calmly just says, I see a lot of faces that I really don't recognize. Good luck on the exam. By the way, you got to get at least 60 right to pass. And, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, that's why I went to class, and I did graded assignments, or assignments that could affect my grade, and that was all I ever did, and I graduated. I have all the pieces of paper that I paid for. and it didn't take me any longer than anyone else. It took me exactly as long as it was supposed to.
My grades suffered in my senior year, not from
My
not going
grades
to
suffered.
class.
I didn't get A's. I didn't get all B's and A's. My GPA was like under 3 in college, but
Yeah.
I got the piece of paper. A different piece of paper with extra Latin words on it would have made no difference in my current life other than depriving me of pleasures in college. I
See-
think I won.
For me, it would have, because if I hadn't graduated with honors, IBM wouldn't have hired me in the first place, because they have GPA requirements.
Yeah, I would have gotten the job I have now and the job I quit before, with or without Latin words.
Yeah. Though I was funny, because I pretty much had a 4.0, and then midway through
And I make
sophomore
more money
year,
than you.
You do now, but I made more money than you for a while. I think I've made more total
But
money
you made
than
a
you.
very small amount more than I did. Now I make much more than you do.
But I also made
Without Latin words
I
that
made
you
much
had.
more than you did when you worked at that other company before you got a real job. Because I was working at IBM even back then.
Oh, when I worked with, that was a co-op though. That wasn't a job.
IBM was a co-op at first, and even the co-op paid 50 grand.
Yeah, my co-op paid like, it was actually
Well,
pretty
sadly-
good. At the time when I had such low cost of living, it paid well. But
Oh God, when I had that like $8 an hour tech job at RIT, I was rolling in dough.
I wasn't with my $7 an hour office job.
Oh, because I had the think about it. I got paid like $1 more than you, and my job was like be an
Plus,
administrator.
you worked
for
a lot more
RIT.
hours than I did. I worked like 10 hours a week at that office.
Well, that's because I had no money. I was out of money by then.
Yeah.
Because I had squandered all the money I made at IBM. I remember that. I came back to school and it was like, I have all this money. This is going to be great. And 4 months later, I realized, where did it all go? Shit.
All right, that's enough of this.
Yeah. Suffice to say, I just want to point out that while I might have had a little bit of outrage about, you shouldn't make these kids fail, I want to point out that here's the question that Channel 3 Eyewitness News reporter Leon Collins asked one of the students who was caught in all this, who was making the ruckus for the media. Now, quote, "You were out 70 days this year?" 70. 70. I have a feeling that many of the students who were affected by this weren't doing so well in school anyway and probably should have been going to school.
Yeah, of course, that's obvious. But in principle, if someone gets all good grades and you are going to go with a school system that, puts this, emphasis on grades and actually thinks grades are real and matter and such, then it's kind of hypocritical to fail someone who gets good grades just because they don't show up.
What it really says is if you can get good grades without showing up, then they're not teaching you anything, so the school's broken.
That's also true.
All right, anyway, that's enough of that.
So there's another Fantastic Four movie coming out, right? And the first one sucked, according to everyone. I never saw it.
What,
but
the one from the 70s?
No, the one that was recent. From like
So
a
the
few
second
years
one
ago.
sucked. The first one just sucked more and was...
Well, there was actually 3 of them. There's one from the 70s. There was one from the 90s that was never released, but you can watch it all on the internets. They just made it to like hold on to some copyrights or something, even though it was some terrible movie. And then there's the new one that was actually in theaters a few years ago or so. I'm not sure. And then there's the sequel to the new one that is going to be in theaters very soon. And some projectionist, a guy who runs projectors at a movie theater for $7 an hour, saw the movie early, as someone who with that kind of job occasionally gets to do for whatever reason. And because
For whatever reason, he's running the projector.
no, I think there was actually like something happening. Like he wasn't running the projector, like he got to see it.
All
as
right,
part
all
of the sun- no, But basically, he's a cool guy who happens to be a projectionist, and he wrote a review of the movie for ain'titcoolnews.com.
All right.
Soon after, he was fired from his job.
Well, I guess...
Mostly because he made a negative review of the movie.
So you're saying that if the review had been positive, they might have overlooked it?
No, basically, there's all this sort of there's basically a lack of verifiable information. But basically, we do know, I'm pretty sure, that 20th Century Fox called the movie theater, corporate and said, someone is unauthorized, reviews of movies at your company somewhere. And that's all, I know they said at least that much, and we know the guy was fired, most likely because of his too early review of this movie.
Well, here's the really important question. 1, did he sign an NDA?
No.
2,
He said he would have if they gave him one, but they didn't.
all right, so if he didn't sign an NDA, and there's no policy in whatever contract or whatever thing allows him to be employed there saying that this sort of thing is grounds for firing, and he didn't really violate any laws. It really depends on what state it was in and whether or not it's a right to work state and all that business.
Yes.
But he might have some sort of claim that I was fired unjustly.
He might
or
have
punitively.
He very may well have some sort of legal claim that he was fired unjustly. However, I want to say, just regardless of the law, right? Forget the law for a minute. Pretend it's just about right and wrong here. What Scott thinks is right and wrong, right?
All right.
First of all, I think you should be able to fire anyone for any reason at any time.
Oh, I agree.
So,
And luckily we live in New York where that's the case.
yeah, so...
Except for the protected things, age, race, religion.
Oh, yes, obviously. You don't... you're black, you're fired. That's not cool.
That's different.
Yes. Secondly...
But you're ugly, you're fired,
Yes.
is perfectly fine.
Yes, but secondly, the job was $7 an hour. You can go to any McDonald's and get paid that much and get that job in like a minute. Who gives a shit if you're fired from your $7 an hour job?
Yeah.
You're making chump change. I could go out and get 3 of those jobs in 10 minutes.
Well,
what the fuck are you so upset about?
No, here's why he's so upset. He's either an idiot or brilliant. Because he would have toiled in obscurity in that job. But now, he is going to be internet famous. The more ruckus he makes, the more people will know who he is. And as long as he keeps the momentum going, he can have a moderately successful blog somewhere.
Yeah, I think he said he plans on becoming a movie reviewer of some sort.
Yeah, well, you know what? He's all set. So I think he's pretty canny about all this.
But I don't think he did it on purpose, though. Like, it's like now that he doesn't have a job, he's like, well, now I'm going to go for my dream now that I don't have a job. It's not like he planned it out like, ha ha ha, I will review this movie early and do it on the internet, and they'll fire me and I'll make a ruckus.
What I'm saying is it's after the fact now, and he has to take advantage of this good turn.
Yes, of course. But why would it's not just him being upset about losing his $7 job, right? It's people on the internet are outraged that a guy lost a $7 an hour job.
People on the internet are outraged about something.
But how could you be outraged about someone losing a $7 job?
I think it's the principle of the thing that the guy worked for a company and he did his thing, and he didn't sign any NDA, and no one told him he couldn't do this. There was no law saying he couldn't do it, no contract saying he couldn't do it. So he did it on his own time.
But that means that these people don't agree that you should be able to fire anyone for almost any reason at any time.
Oh, no, I think what I would say is that I agree that legally they should have the right to fire him. And there really shouldn't be any problem with that. However, I think that they're all asshats.
Oh, yeah, I didn't say they weren't. I'm just saying. No reason to be outraged.
So
it's
you know what?
just something you point out and go, uh-huh. Not something you go, rabble, rabble, rabble.
But the internet can only go rabble, rabble, rabble. It has no other unified cause. There is no way to harness the internet.
It can also go hooray, hooray.
But that happens so rarely and among very small...
Anytime Steve Jobs opens his mouth.
No, but that's just the Apple people.
Yeah.
There's all these different stands in the internet, and they can all hooray, hooray about individual things, but they never hooray, hooray with one voice.
I think there would be a unified hooray, hooray if something big happened.
I don't know. I think the only thing that can
like
unify...
a pull out of Iraq or something?
No, because you realize that half of the internet is filled with people
Those
who
people
believe
don't know how to use the internet.
Yeah, they do.
No,
Go to
they
FARC. Granted, there's the
FARC
possibility
isn't the internet.
that those people are all trolls, that everyone you disagree with is a troll.
Someone trolling counts as hooray, hooray, because they're getting a lot of enjoyment out of it.
Well, I've never seen the internet combine and be positive about something. I have, however,
about the existence of the internet.
No, because a lot of people who are on the internet hate the internet.
You get off.
I mean,
no one's making you.
Actually, I'm not gonna tell this whole little anecdote, but the other day at work, I was talking to a doctor who was kind of a Luddite, who didn't even work for the place I worked for. I just met him in the street outside of some other hospital. And they were complaining into a cell phone about cell phones and people talking on them in public. And I just stared at this woman like, do you even understand the words that are coming out of your mouth?
That's pretty funny right there. That's like typing into a website. Man, I hate the internets. Man, I hate podcasts.
Well, I do hate podcasts. I mean, think about it. Dave and Joel are a podcast for people who hate anime and video games.
And hate podcasts.
Yes. We just hate podcasts.
Yeah. I hate almost everything. It's just...
News of the day. It's a video, kittens, a robotic mouse, and a mirror. That's really all I can say.
All right. My video is a cow in a swimming pool.
That's
Now-
pretty self-explanatory as
No,
well.
no. But here's the thing about this video, right? I'm looking at the cow in the swimming pool, and I'm like, how are you going to get that cow out of the swimming pool?
With the crane.
Nope.
You drain the pool.
Nope. What, draining the pool. Now what do you do?
Then you lift him out with the crane.
Nope.
You kill him.
Nope.
All right, how do they get the cow out of the swimming pool?
I'm not going to tell you. That's a surprise. But all I'm going to point out is that basically they call the police, as you would probably do. And then the police calls the farmer, and the farmer comes, and the farmer knows exactly what to do and gets the cow out quickly and easily.
Uh-huh. Does he trick the cow into getting out of its own volition?
Nope.
Huh.
It's pretty... It's
Was
not,
the farmer Superman?
No, the farmer just really must fucking know about cows. And I guess that's what it's like when I go to someone's house and fix their computer.
Nah, I guess.
So, yeah. Watch this. And if you're not a farmer... If you're a farmer, you go, I know how they do it. If you're not a farmer, you go, well, look at that. It's like I couldn't think of this. And while the video played for about 2 minutes, I couldn't think of how they were going to do it. And then they just did it.
I'm going to try to guess before I watch the video, and I suggest you all do the same.
Yeah, it's a fun game. Think about guess how to get the cow out of the pool. And then after about a minute, you'll see the answer.
Floaties and put him under him?
That's a good one, but no.
All right. So, every now and then we do a show on people or things or places we dislike. And near the very top of the list,
It's pretty much like Nazis, homeopathy people.
Well, Nazis, flim-flam medicine people.
Yep.
Ignorant people who are also indignant.
And then two groups of people that sort of go hand in hand.
Yes. Now, what we were referring to, I don't know if you've heard this term before. I don't know if this is just an Americanism or if it's in the rest of the world, but it'll be quite
Well, it's
apparent.
anywhere. It's only places that speak English. 'Cause
Well, yeah.
It's obvious. It's an acronym of English words.
But there might be similar terms in other places.
Yeah.
But then again, there are also places like China where the government just basically says, you know what? Fuck you all. Here it comes. We're talking about are the NIMBYs.
And the bananas.
NIMBY. Not in my backyard.
And also the bananas.
I'm not
Build
sure.
absolutely nothing anywhere near anyone.
Now, they used to be just NIMBYs. Banana is a fairly recent term that I think really rather fits because the heart of this issue, the very, very core, to put it in no uncertain terms, is that in America, people, let's use electricity as an example. People want electricity. They need electricity. They cannot live without electricity.
Well, they can live without electricity, but they will live very unhappily without electricity.
Well, you cannot exist in America without electricity and still be connected
the
to
American
society.
lifestyle and society cannot exist without electricity.
I mean,
the
even-
human body can live, but
Pretty much, even the deeply impoverished most times have electricity.
Yep.
Everyone needs it. Everyone wants it. It is there. It is a necessity of life for most people.
yep.
Now, electricity has to be made in something called a power plant. Now, this could be coal, nuclear, natural gas, solar, tidal, whatever.
Wind, geothermal, fusion, cold fusion, microwave.
But the fact remains that, like SimCity, you gotta build it somewhere because you see, you need a power plant to make the electricity. Now, herein lies the crux of the issue. Most Americans want electricity. However, they do not want a power plant to be there near them. They want it to be somewhere else. They don't care where, they just don't want it in their backyard. They don't want it in their town. They don't want to see it.
Yes, and if you play SimCity, this is pretty obvious. And if you think about it, you don't want your house next to a coal power plant. If there's a coal power plant right next to a house in SimCity, the houses don't get populated because no one wants to fucking live with all this coal smoke coming into their lungs, right? I wouldn't want to live next to a coal power plant either.
But at the same time, the power plant has to go somewhere.
It can't occupy like the fourth dimension. It has to be somewhere.
So think of this. Everyone wants the power plant, but no one wants it in their town. There's nowhere to put the power plant. And as a result, large patches of America, the United States, require services or have deficiencies that could be easily solved by everyone in the world. That the economics are right, the demand is there, the money is there, the resources, the land, everything is great. Except the people everywhere do not want these things to be built near them. And thus, these things don't get built.
Yep.
And thus, we don't build new power plants often. We don't build nuclear power plants. We don't build trains. We don't build freeways. We don't build anything.
I mean, look in SimCity, right? In SimCity, okay, obviously, if you build the coal power plant right next to the residential area, it doesn't work out so well, right? But if you build it in the industrial area, it works. It's far enough away from the houses. Its radius of effect doesn't get over any residential zones, only industrial zones. So the game doesn't punish you in any way because people don't care if it's far enough away. In this country, it seems like a lot of people now, if they know it's there, even if it's like in another state, they still don't like it. They want to build absolutely nothing anywhere near anyone. Not just not in my backyard. They don't want it built. But they want the electricity.
Now, the funny thing is, these are people, I think the worst example of it, other than the wind power thing that Emily went into in great detail a while ago, are cell towers, cellular phone towers.
That's my number one thing.
Because everyone needs cell phones in America just about. It's getting to that point.
Everyone complains that their cell phone cuts out. They complain that their cell phone coverage is shitty. They complain that cell phone data isn't fast enough.
And
they
it's
complain
true.
that cell phones aren't cheap enough.
Like when I lived up in the mountains, there wasn't enough cell coverage, so there were a lot of dead spots, and the house I was living in just didn't get cell service. I had to drive down the mountain to get cell service.
And people don't realize that in order to have cell coverage, you need a tower that's connected to the network that has big radios on it.
Now, the people in this fucking town complained about the cell service all the time. They complained to Verizon. They complained to Sprint. They banded together and wrote petitions how they wanted their cell service to be better. Verizon said, all right, we'll build a cell tower there. And the town said, oh, no. You can't build your cancer-causing cell tower in our town.
The cell tower that doesn't actually cause cancer or harm you in any way.
The cell tower where there's no evidence of any harm whatsoever, where, in fact, it's just off in the distance on the peak of the mountain, and I think looks rather pretty.
It's just a metal tower that's standing over there somewhere. It doesn't hurt you in any way. Sure, if you got right up next to it and you climbed up it while it was on, then yes, it would probably hurt you because the radio waves are pretty powerful. If you're just standing across the street from it, you are, unless you stand there for hours and hours and hours and you get some reflectors to aim the radio waves at you or something like that, it basically can't hurt you. Anyone who says that it can hurt you is full of shit.
Now, here's the better part. They didn't even complain so much about how they think they're dangerous. The primary complaint was that they will spoil the view, that they look ugly. Now, I've noticed that the people who say that these sorts of things look ugly have no problem with power lines because power lines have been around a long time. I think the real hard is that a lot of people are comfortable only with things that they're used to and are afraid of new things.
Well, is a good example that shows that exactly what you said is true. There was I'm not remember the exact details of this story, but I know it's a true story. There was some city and they wanted to put up a billboard with some lights. It was a big gaudy kind of thing, right? And when they wanted to put it up way back in the day, right, people fought it and said, don't you put up that gaudy thing. Don't you put that up. And they got it put up. The people who wanted it got it, and the people who didn't want it got pissed off. But after time, the people realized they couldn't do anything about it, and they just remained pissed off until they died. 50 years later, when the thing had been around for a while, people said, you can't get rid of that. That's a part of the city. And they didn't want to get rid of it. Maybe it wasn't gaudy or in the way.
Well,
it was
actually,
just change that upsetted them.
The same thing happened, probably to a lesser extent. I don't know all the details, but when the Eiffel Tower was built, a lot of people living in the area saw it as this gigantic monstrosity, this ugly, just black, hideous thing, and they wanted it torn down.
Didn't think it was a monstrosity.
Yeah, but a lot of people they didn't like it. It was like this eyesore, and now the Eiffel Tower is probably the
pride
ultimate.
of France.
It is the ultimate icon of France.
Yeah, they gave us the better statue though, dumbasses.
Yeah,
They built themselves a plain metal tower. We got a lady with a torch and lights and stuff. Real smart. Thanks. We win. You lose.
But yeah, it's just people want things, but they're not willing to deal with the consequences of the things. I mean, and the worst part is, all right, so say you try to build something off in the middle of nowhere. Then they complain that you're ruining the natural environment. So then say you try to build it, but like, all right, environmentalists who complain about coal power and nuclear power and whatever. Fine, we'll build air power. Air power is perfectly clean. It's exactly what they want. But they don't want the turbines because they say it'll kill the birds.
It doesn't kill the birds.
Yeah, I mean...
And it also, they complain it makes noise. Well, yeah, it makes noise.
But not that much noise, and only if you're standing right next to it.
Yeah, if it's kind of far away, you're not going to hear it.
I mean, back in Rochester, Emily...
I mean, a hydroelectric dam, now that makes some fucking noise.
There were a bunch of people, they want to build a big wind farm out there. And a lot of people started getting together and protesting it. And most of these people happen to be wealthy people who own land and were worried about property values and BS like that. Well, I think the lady who was like the forefront of it didn't even live there. She just owned the land or something. But their arguments were absurd. One of the arguments they made against them was that the rotating blades, if the shadow passed over someone's window, could, with the alternating light and dark, cause epileptic seizures.
No, it can't.
That's just crazy. One gentleman in an open letter said that the sounds that they make when you're standing right next to him, which is kind of this low groaning... I think it's a kind of interesting sound. I like it. And also, you have to be really close to it to hear it.
Yeah, you got to be like standing next to the thing to hear it.
He said that the noise they make reminded him too much of the concentration camps. Yeah. So, I mean,
Godwin's law, you lose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Godwin's law doesn't state that you lose. It just states that the probability of Nazis being brought up approaches 1.
Yeah, and then it's over.
Well, no, not that it's over. Just that's it. Nazis get brought up.
I guess.
There are corollaries that say then you lose or whatever, but...
Yeah. Anyway, these people all need to learn 2 words that I have to tell them. You ready for the 2 words?
I'm ready.
Tough shit.
I don't know. I have a much different set of 2 words. Cost benefit. It seems that people want things, but aren't willing to actually consider the consequences or the prices. You can't get anything for free. The laws of thermodynamics state that the world is a zero-sum game. The universe, as far as we've been able to tell for as long as we've existed, is a zero-sum game. Anything you want costs something. And people want things, but they don't want to pay. They want electricity. All right, build a coal power plant. But coal makes pollution. Fine, build a nuclear power plant. But nuclear radiation, OMG. Fine, build a hydroelectric plant. But they're loud and they screw up rivers, and we already built them all. Oh, fine, build an air plant. No, it'll kill the birds. Fine, build a solar plant. No, they're expensive. Fine, build a natural gas plant. No, they're even more expensive. There's no more options. That's it. It's either pick one of them, or it's not like there's an option that satisfies you.
And thus... tough shit.
You have to make a compromise. You have to decide what price you were going to pay for that electricity. And people are just too stupid to realize it. And it really bothers me if you can't tell because I haven't breathed in the last minute.
Yeah, basically, I think that the government just has to...
Eminent domain a lot more?
Well, yes, eminent domain a lot more. The problem is you want a government that does things that are in the best interest of the people. But you sort of that's why we have a representative government as opposed to a pure democracy, because of the pure democracy, we wouldn't be able to do anything in the best interest of the people when the people don't know what's in their own best interest.
I believe the words we're looking for are the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
Exactly. But the problem is a lot of these NIMBY banana issues are very local issues. They're usually on the town or state level usually. They're not sort of federal issues where the government can kind of go, take that, and there's nothing you could do about it, right? Because there's so many, the whole country's voting and only your town says no, you lose. Or the whole state is voting and only your county says no, you lose. When it's a local issue and the mayor says, no, this wind farm is better for our town, and the mayor does it anyway, the mayor loses the election. And then the next mayor takes down the wind farm, wastes everyone's money taking down the wind farm, and the people vote for that mayor again and again, and their town continues to suck and suck, but they're still happy.
Yep. And this happens with everything. Like, where we live now, there's really only one north-south road, and there's really only one east-west road. And traffic is getting worse and worse as more and more people move to this area. And
a lot of people are saying, hey, let's stop letting people move to the area.
Yeah, they don't say, all right, how can we fix the roads? Maybe mass transit, maybe a freeway, maybe some sort of solution. No, just well, let's just buy up all the land and not let people move here because that'll work in the long run.
Yeah, and maybe they don't even stop to think, then our economy will suck. If we let these people move, it'll be awesome for us. No, they just don't want anything to change. They don't want anyone to move there. They want it to be the way it is and never have anything change.
Yep.
Don't cut down a single tree. Don't lay a single brick. Don't do anything. Let's have it stay this way. It's like in the year 2500 when there's all these Jetsons towers, your town will still be sitting down there. You'll be an old man living in your same cruddy house. Nothing changed.
I mean, I think you have to strike a balance because I think keeping relics of history is important.
Of course,
I mean,
of course.
If
you don't knock, I'm not saying we gotta
you don't
pave
knock
the
down,
world here.
Yeah, you don't knock down the Colosseum in Rome to build a new condo.
No.
But at the same time, if you have 40 Colosseums, keep one of them. Like New York City. They build brand new buildings all over the place because old skyscrapers suck. But you know what? They're probably never going to tear down the Flatiron building because that was the first skyscraper.
Yeah.
Like
the Empire State Building isn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, but you know what? That cruddy random building that no one cares about on like X Street, if someone buys that building and has enough money, you bet your ass they're going to tear it down if they can and pay someone to build it back up. And you know what? That's good because jobs for the construction workers. The building now can fit more things in it, and it's taller, so you get more business, more people can be around there, and it's just better for everybody. Some guy is basically investing money in that spot, and that makes things go. That's what makes things good, is when people spend money on stuff.
I think my favorite point about this whole issue, it always comes back to the cell towers. The primary complaint, regardless of what people say, is always that they don't like the way they look. And first I'll make my logical argument, and then I'll make my funny argument.
Oh, the tree.
Yeah, the tree. The logical argument is simply that, to me, as a technologist and a futurist, and someone who, I guess, I don't want to say that I'm more in tune or I'm more enlightened, because that sort of thing is really pretentious and crappy to say. But you gotta at least be a little bit forward-thinking. And when I see a cell tower, or a new technology, or a new freeway, or a new maglev train, or something like that being built, or I see a wind farm on the horizon, I don't think, that ugly new thing marring the landscape. I think, wow, look at all that science and progress sitting right there. That's the future.
Man, I go to the city every day and I just look at something, right? You look at a building and the building's made of like a bajillion bricks and you go, people made that.
Not only that, people made that like 50 years ago.
And you look at the whole thing and you're like, people made that.
When I look up,
think about what we had to do to make that. And then you look, and there's like 1,000 more of them, and you're like, how the fuck did we do that? Look at this.
When I look up at the top of Mountain Beacon at night, and I see all those blinking, glistening cell towers and communication towers, I don't think, they've despoiled the beauty of Mountain Beacon. I think, wow, that's how my cell service works. That's it. That's how I communicate with the world. Right there. I can see it. That is a monument to technology.
Yeah, when I see a cell tower, I'm like, yes, datas. I need them.
Now, normal people seem to think about this on a much baser level because the solution that has been used at least in downstate New York, and I've seen them in other places too, is, all right, build a cell tower. It's ugly. It looks like a cell tower. What if we made it look like something natural, like, say, a tree?
That's fine. If you have like a big, tree thing that it actually looks like a tree.
What if we camouflage it? So, I'm driving down 84 toward Connecticut.
It's on the Hutch.
Yeah. Well, no, there's one on 84 too.
The Hutch one is the biggest, most gaudy one.
Yeah, the one right after 95.
The one on the Hutch at the New York Connecticut border.
Yep.
Where it hits like 287.
When I go over to hit and then past that one, I hit 684.
Where it hits 684. That's
yeah.
Where 684 and the Hutch meet at the corner of New York and Connecticut.
When I was working in Mount Vernon, I was over there a lot.
Yep.
So here's the scene. You're driving. And you see the tree line along the hills. This gigantic just line of trees. They're all about the same height, and they all look about the same because they're all, pine trees. And in the midst of them is one gigantic, ugly motherfucking tree.
That's twice as tall as all the other trees.
It's twice as tall as all the other ones, twice as thick.
And incredibly sparse.
It has these sparse, obviously fake metal-looking leaves on it, and an antenna sticking out of it, and it's painted brown. Who's that fooling? That looks a lot worse than a sleek, shining, like red and green cell tower with lights on it. It just looks stupid.
It's really stupid. Maybe I should, we can find a picture of one of these things to show you how stupid it is.
I mean, good.
They wasted money and resources on making that cell tower look like a fake tree where they could have spent those money and resources on another cell tower down the road where there's no service.
Now,
it's not just, for me, the NIMBYs and the bananas, it's not just, the government wants to build something or we need a public service or someone wants to build a new business or a housing development, right? It's also within, it's people against each other and not necessarily against companies or the government.
It's whenever someone has a decision to make and just doesn't actually make the decision or doesn't actually think about it.
Yeah, for example, if I want to build a garage, the law says I have to ask my fucking neighbor. Why the fuck should my neighbor get to say what I build on my lawn?
Well, that only matters if you live in some stupid, we'll talk about that in another show.
You want to talk about another show?
Homeowners agreements?
Homeowners associations?
Yes, that's another show.
All right, basically a homeowners association is if you live somewhere in which there is a homeowners association, you are not allowed to live there unless you join this agreement. And then...
Because it's tied to the land in most
yes,
cases.
And if you join the agreement, you're basically agreeing that any rule the homeowners association comes up with, you have to follow. Which basically means a bunch of people who live where you live and have nothing better to do because they have no jobs.
Yeah, the only people who actually work and run the homeowners associations, not to sound stereotypical, it's always old, embittered people with nothing better to do and no jobs.
Well, basically...
And they always make the meetings at like 2 o'clock on Wednesdays so all the working people can't show up to them.
Yep. And they will just decide on rules, and then you must follow them or you can't live there, and they can just kick you out and do a whole bunch of nasty things to you. And they'll make rules like you have to bring your trash can in back by a certain time or else you pay a fine, or you're not allowed to park a car in your driveway. All your cars have to be in the garage. If you can't have more than X cars. You can't have a car more than X years old. If you have to replace your roof every 3 years, whether it needs repairing or not. Your house can't be that color. You can't make an addition to your house. You can't build a porch. You can't have a pool. You can't blah blah blah. You have to do this. You have to do that. What the fuck? You don't tell me what I can do to my house. All right? Fuck you. I don't care if you have to look at my house and you look out your window. That's tough shit.
Now, I realized, just because we've gone long, but we talked, we kind of listed in order the people we dislike, and I realized something frightening. There is almost nothing more disturbing to me in the world than an indignant NIMBY.
Dum dum dum.
No,
an indignant banana.
The phrase indignant banana just strikes me as being wonderful.
Yeah, I see like this banana who's about to do some peanut butter jelly time, but instead he does something else that's not good.
Peanut butter jelly time.
He says, you can't build 10 cell towers.
I think we're done. This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geeknights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via audio. Just click the link that says send me an audio on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.